Hello, I'm Edward Tarte, once a Catholic priest for 5 years in the 1960s, now an atheist, which means I find no credible evidence for the existence of any God. This is the 29th in my series of weekly videos for friendlyatheist.com. In this video and next week's, I am going to describe my transition out of the priesthood. I actually left the priesthood in May 1968. Leading up to that event, for several months, I was living a strange priestly life, living on the edge. But I need to give you some background. 2.5 years earlier, as an assistant priest in an affluent part of Houston, Texas, I attended a retreat for priests in Oklahoma. There I heard talks by a priest and by a Catholic college professor that were actually very critical of the Catholic Church and its strict authority over its members. These talks stirred my thoughts. They had a lot to do with my eventual departure from the priesthood and from the Catholic Church. At that parish in suburban Houston, my fellow assistant pastor and I had much free time, so we both accepted requests to give priestly talks and do other interesting priestly things outside our parish, activities approved by our bishop. But that greatly angered our pastor. He complained to the bishop. Accordingly, the bishop transferred both of us. He transferred me to a parish in downtown Houston, where the pastor was very traditional, very conservative, but also very congenial, permissive, and intent on avoiding controversy no matter what. In that respect, I was extremely fortunate. I had obtained reel-to-reel tape recordings of the talks that I had heard at that retreat in Oklahoma, and I had the latest technology, a reel-to-reel tape recorder with speakers. A lady from my former parish organized evening meetings of typically a dozen or so Catholics in her home and in other homes. At those meetings, I would come, just telling my pastor that I needed to be gone for the evening. We would eat a meal together. I would then play one of the tapes critical of the Catholic Church, and we would discuss it. We had a bunch of those meetings, averaging 3 or 4 a month, spanning several months. Meanwhile, I was teaching religion in a high school for girls adjacent to the church. I introduced some of these critical ideas in my teaching. I also started introducing some of the ideas in my Sunday sermons. On one of those occasions, another priest of the parish turned off a microphone during my sermon so that I had to practically shout the rest of my sermon. At lunch that day, I asked him if he had done that, and he said yes. And he said, "Just preach about angels and topics like that." I then felt so much hostility toward that priest that I ate some of my meals privately in my upstairs room, which was probably not a good idea. My faith was gradually crumbling and giving way to my brain and reason, and I was trying with variable success to match my actions to my state of mind. I was assigned every few days to make visits to a downtown hospital, and I felt increasingly uncomfortable in that role as a Catholic hospital chaplain. One day, a young lady came to our priest's residence and asked me if I would give her private lessons about the Catholic Church because she wanted to become a Catholic. I told her that I could not honestly recommend that she or anyone become a Catholic. What a horrible thing for a Catholic priest to say. And since no other priest at that church chose to give such lessons, the young lady had to go elsewhere. During that winter of 1968, I realized that my days as a priest were numbered, and that I would need to be able to support myself. I plan in my next video in this series, next week, to describe my efforts to prepare to support myself, and I will continue to describe for you my transition out of the priesthood. To all of you, thank you for watching this video.